Oh, these two clowns are at it again. Yesterday, they went ahead and posted a video each. Both of them did the same exact video like they always do, right? And they said that Josh, aka Rascal, aka the homie Hangout, aka one of the members of the YouTube streets, I mean, he was on it like a million times. They were trying to say that he killed himself yesterday, bro. And now they deleted their videos. They got the mother coming after them. You know, the mother could probably sue them. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Because that's not how he passed away. According to homie Hangout's mom, he actually passed away from a medical emergency issue, a condition, which I think we need to let her speak on that, right? Don't try to say, oh, he took himself. What kind of, dude, they had this story that was so out of here. I wish if someone recorded it of Gunner and Dub in their videos yesterday, please send it to our email at newageplugs with the S with a plural or the YouTube Streets podcast at gmail.com, because I really want to break down like this lie that they put out, bro. Because listen, if you watch our video is remembering Homie Hangout, of what he did for the community, of how he felt about all you YouTubers. I do want to say this. Nate Dogg 916, he loved you. Buzz, he loved you. And then in the interview that I had with him, he talked about 16 to life. He had a lot of respect for you, Texas Prison Stories, of course, and a lot of other people that I didn't mention in the last video. But he did not respect Gunner and Dubs. He just exposed Dubs. Dubs was on the SNY yard longer than I've been on this earth. Now, just like earlier in the year, people love mocking the deaths of people recently, like Charlie Kirk. And then now Homie Hangout, people are mocking his death. And one of these YouTubers that I never known till this day by the name of Poncho, I'm going to call him Puto. He's a puto. And this dude made a whole video talking crap about the death of Homie Hangout, saying that him and Homie Hangout had this fallout.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. We're talking about the sad and shocking news of a YouTuber passing away from a self-inflicted boom.
Again, the mother of Josh is saying in the comments that did not happen, that he did not unalive himself. He died for medical reasons. This dude is pushing false information.
To Berkeley, I think, even. And the funny thing is, I actually met him in real life before YouTube. Before all these fools met him, I met him. I knew him. And that's why it also was so disappointing when he basically like turned his back on me and just did me dirty, you know?
So I went and did some research, and I figured out why this dude is mad. This is another dude that Homie Hangout exposed. This dude is no good.
Thumbnail is a question. Right, as a word, there's a question. I have reached conclusions. I have answered that question for myself. I'm going to let you know what my conclusion is and how I reached it and when I reached it. And then you are going to be free to reach your own conclusion. How do I even know Bojo? Right? Why does this come up? Because like I said, I've pointed people in his direction and check out his content. We've had cordial interactions online and that kind of stuff. So going back many, many years, 2008, 9, 10, I moved to Florida in 2011. So in that, time span, I was doing a lot of community work in the Bay Area. I was living in East Palo Alto and just doing a lot of work, right? And predominantly working with brown and black communities, predominantly young people from the neighborhood in various ways, helping them in school, getting them jobs, wore a lot of hats, right? Violence prevention industries, doing all kinds of stuff. And when you do that work and you do it well and you're really out there, you network with other people throughout the Bay that also do that. And so you pull up in Oakland and San Francisco and San Jose and this person's event and this group's event, and you bring your youngsters to go support what they got going on, and they bring your youngsters, and we learn from each other. A lot of violence has been reduced that way, right? Of building these networks and like, hey, hold on, let me call the homies over here. I don't mean homies in a gang sense. They got nothing to do with gangs. But anyway, so in those spaces, I met Bojo. I seen him. And he was there in the context of a photographer, right? A photojournalist who is documenting these spaces and these movements and is in areas where we don't got a lot of press. We don't get a lot of attention. A lot of times they talk about Raza from the neighborhood and they talk about the brothers, and it's about crime and drugs and violence and gangs and everything. And he's there kind of taking pictures of the beauty of it all, the movement, right? And it makes sense because my understanding of him, how he had presented himself, is a guy from Santa Rosa whose family was involved in that type of stuff, right? In civil rights and organizing and all that, who had come up around some Northerners, but then he wound up going off to school and and just realizing the tribalism of the streets is really an obstacle to us advancing as a people. So he's like a bridge builder and all that. That's how I knew him, right? That's who I understood him to be. That's how he presented himself. That's the lane he was in those spaces. He was a little educated, so he knew about cultura and history and whatnot. We followed each other on social media back then, right? Facebook, and kind of stayed connected and would watch each other that way, right? So we didn't talk offline. I have his number. We just networking. That was all it was. Fast forward many years, and I'm on YouTube. Okay, he pops up where we follow each other on Instagram, and again, it had been cordial conversations, right, within that lane. That's how he knew me. That's how I knew him, and so we're chopping it up, and he's like, "I'm gonna do this YouTube channel." That's dope. I think you should, man. You know, you have something to say. You're talented, creative dude. You know, and that's when we really got to kind of talking. And so he would come in the chat. I would promote his channel. Check out Bojo One. Blah blah blah. I had heard that he had some issues with women in the context of like he just thinks he's God's gift to females. He tries to pop at every skirt he sees walking down the thing. He doesn't take rejection the best. He's kind of a jerk. I had heard that stuff. And that's not my personality. That's not the kind of people that I want, around women in my life. But to each their own, there are dudes like that. And so again, was it the most respectable conduct? No. But my understanding of what had happened at that time was that lines hadn't been crossed. That understanding has changed, and I'm gonna get into that. But I didn't know the shit that I know now. Had I known then what I know now, then this would have been cut off a long time ago, right? So he winds up getting into it with people, right? Getting into it with other people on YouTube, and I can see it's a very messy personality, and inviting scrutiny, talking shit. Not my business, not my fight. I'm not into it. Still cordial and respectful when he comes around the channel, but less promotion on my end. Now it's kind of like kind of J-Cat. It's really what it comes down to. He's like a metrosexual J-Cat. Fast forward, recently I see a community post by a channel, right, a northern channel, and it's like, hey man, podcaster Bojo being exposed for being a creep towards females, and it's all these screenshots of these Instagram comments. And my assumption when I saw it was that they was just trolling. Because Bojo's been trolling some northerners, so of course some folks are going to troll back, and it's kind of like you make your bed, you got to lie in it. So I stayed away from it. But I dismissed it as probably trolling, and he said, she said. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that, but that's how I saw it. Then Friday, Listo from Upstate Point of View does a video. And I'm watching a video, and I'm just barely a couple minutes into it, and I stop, I get the link, and I text it to Bojo. And I tell him, what the fuck is this? It's one thing to be a womanizer, but this is sounding like something else. And he replies, well, that fool's a drop by. He's a northern rider. He's all like discrediting the messenger, which at first didn't make sense to me because I wasn't that far in the video yet. So I was like, what? Talking about Listo from San Jose. But then I realized in Listo's video is a clip from Instagram of this dude from Santa Rosa saying, hey, I know Bojo, and here's my personal experiences with him, and here's what I know about his interactions with females in the community. And it is consistent with what this other page had posted that women were saying. But now it's getting into there's minors involved, right? There's minors involved. Okay, well now we're getting into crossing lines, right? So I watch it. I ignore Bojo for the most part, right? He texted me a whole bunch of times, and I was like, this is just looking like something else. And so I get on Instagram, and I look at my DMs, and the individual who made that video that Upstate Point of View put in his content had actually sent me that video, right? Himself. I hadn't seen it. It's been sick last few days. You guys know. But so I see it, and I reach out. Hey, bro, let's talk. Let me talk to you. I follow that dude's page. He does car clubs and church stuff. Like I don't know him, but I'm familiar with him. And so I was like, oh wow. We get on the phone. He runs me through a number of scenarios, right? A number of situations, a lot of detail, and it makes sense. I would say it makes sense. It was believable, right? Still, he says, she said, but there's a pattern being developed here. And he's like, bro, look at the comments on my video. Like, click on some of those profiles. Those are not spam profiles. These are women from our community, right? And look at the stuff that they're saying. And it was troubling stuff. It was stuff about targeting girls when they're minors, right? 16, whatever, offering to do photo shoots and nudes and all this other stuff, and targeting girls that he met through the work, right? When I say the work, I mean like the community work that he met through that, which to me is a huge problem, just ethically, right? That's not what those spaces are for. It's not a fucking dating service. It's community service. Like, you can't. But so I'm like, this is a problem. We have a long conversation. I'm like, hey man, I appreciate it. Thank you for the heads up. But I'm still not done looking around. Okay. So I look at another message I got on IG. And it's somebody who's been on YouTube before, who's like, hey, I saw you were mentioned in Listo's video, and I just want to kind of put you up on what I heard. All right, cool. What'd you hear? Right. So we get on the phone and he runs me through this situation. And he's like, hey, I told Gunner about this years ago, right? Which I didn't know about, and I wasn't talking to Gunner then. And so I don't know, Gunner probably wound up doing a video, right? But so I'm not gonna get into all that, but I will say that he's like, hey, this is what I heard, right? From my own backyard, and runs me through all this stuff. Well, when he's saying this is what I heard from, we'll say Joe, right? It's not the guy's name, but this is what I heard from Joe. I know Joe. I from those spaces, from that time, like, these networks still exist, and people move on and they do different stuff, and we have our own kids, but you're still pretty easy to connect with people. There's a trust built, amongst folks. So I'm not going on what this guy is saying, but I'm following the crumbs to who he's talking about. And I message them. Hey man, let's talk. So I get on the phone with them. Now it's not he says, she says, this is my personal family experience. My family experience is minors being targeted. Him going out with girls, having a drink. The girl wakes up naked in the bed, doesn't know how she got there. This girl having an abortion because she was impregnated without, like, it's far crossing the line. So beyond just, and there was conversations about the being very persistent, being very disrespectful when turned down, and everything else, the kind of creep stuff. But this is beyond creep stuff. And I'm like, how come? So he's like, but the fool was ran out. The fool was ran out of our city because of the harm that he was causing to women and girls. Okay, why wasn't law enforcement involved? Tricky, bro, you're in the hood. And in the hood, we don't get law enforcement involved over very many things. For one, also, you're talking about immigrant communities, documentation, that it was like, hey, let's make sure that this doesn't happen anymore, and let's kind of heal and protect and do our thing. That's when he dips and goes to Southern California. He was ran out. So there's no report of this, but there's multiple people saying the same thing, and I'm talking to people in the family, right? And again, it's fitting a pattern. It's fitting a pattern where there's smoke, there's fire. For me, that's lines are crossed. That's too much. That's too far. And there's more conversations, right? With other people. And the guy on IG is like, look, fool, I didn't do this to get all this social media attention. I did it to kind of put my community up on what was going on, and sort of be a voice for my community and what's being experienced. Now this is becoming something bigger. That ain't really my thing, but not necessarily looking for that attention. So that's why I'm not saying, hey, go here, go here, go here, go there, right? And I'm not trying to name organizations and do other stuff. But this is a pattern of behavior from Northern California to Southern California and in between. And over, I've talked to women who have personal experience that I know, right? I have reached the conclusion that this is not somebody I want anything to do with. I think this is somebody that has brought harm. Now, you define harm how you want, but has that brought harm to women and girls in the community? And that's unacceptable. It should be obviously unacceptable. And I've heard enough that that's my conclusion. That's where I come down on it. Again, you are free to Get your own conclusion.
There you have it. Of course, this dude would laugh at Homie Hangout after he passed away because Homie Hangout exposed this dude for being no good. Basically, he has Chomo's tendencies. I don't know if we could call him a Chomo all the way directly yet. Well, basically he is. This is a weird case because usually Homie Hangout don't have anything that he'll cover without black and white. But when it's very personal, and you know who it is, and you're living in that area, yeah, dude got exposed, bro. Dude is no good. All right, man, this is the U2 Streets Podcast. We out of here. I'll catch you on the next one. We're going to be covering some more Gunner and Dubs. It's over.